Episode 20. What a milestone. It's kind of hard to believe I made it this far, and quite frankly, I wasn't sure that I would. This is the Chronicles of Shred. 20 episodes. Statistically, most podcasts are done in 3. And of the ones that make it past episode 3, 90% of those are done by episode 7. And I have made it to episode 20. It hasn't been easy. I've been tempted to give up. But I made it. And you know, it's not anything catastrophic that happened that made me want to give up. It just starts to feel futile. And it starts to feel like effort in vain after a while. And at some point, it even starts to feel like pressure. You feel like you don't have anything to say. You feel like not a lot has changed because you're just kind of checking the boxes to develop yourself, and there aren't really any tangible results to share. But being consistent throughout that process is probably the biggest thing that I've learned so far. You know, when you start a podcast, you kind of have a fantasy, you have a vision of what it's going to be, that you're going to be inspired every week, that you're going to have these wins and these monumental leaps forward in progress and new music and a new band and all these things. It doesn't happen that way. And you think that you're just going to be motivated and you're going to be locked in and that every episode is going to cause your audience to grow and you're going to get better and every reel is going to get traction and you're going to feel more and more confident and you're going to get good at it and you're going to feel like you're growing. And the simple fact is, it just doesn't go that way. In fact, sometimes you feel like you're getting worse. And sometimes you lose followers. And sometimes you look at your analytics and people watched 5 minutes of a 20-minute podcast. Some episodes hit and some disappear into the void. Some weeks you feel inspired and some weeks you stare at the camera like you're a hostage reading demands. The people who survive this aren't necessarily the most talented or the most inspired. They're the ones who keep moving when the dopamine's gone. When there's no tangible results, when there's no big win, you just keep at it. And I learned and kind of expressed in the last episode that discipline can mutate into pressure. The structure that I came up with helped me initially, and the routines helped, and I felt like I was making progress, but it started to get overwhelming. And at some point, it becomes oppressive. It becomes like a job and not a job that you're enjoying. Every unfinished task starts to feel like failure. Every missed block feels like proof that you're not worthy, that you're slipping, that you can't do this. Then there's a difference between being motivated and being driven and being trapped by your own expectations. And so I have made changes, and the new changes seem to be working for me. Last week, I just kind of did what I needed to do to get done what I needed to get done. So a podcast got delivered and progress was made. I've got tour dates coming up with Red Rain. And so I have been working on the gear for that and working on the songs for that to make sure that I can go out and deliver. I hit every workout last week. I haven't hit every workout in months. And it's because I didn't skip them. So if I woke up late, I did it anyway. If it threw off my whole plan for the day, I still did it. And I still got everything done throughout the day. I just didn't get it done in the time slot that was marked on my calendar to get it done. And letting go of that has been very important for me to be able to get through a day without beating myself up about all the scheduling failures. Rotating my focus throughout the week and keeping an eye on my mental state, staying flexible and protecting my enthusiasm has been essential. You know, my fourth workout for the week was Sunday morning, which is, basically the last possible day that you can get it in. Usually I don't do business on the weekends. Usually weekends are for spending time with my wife. And I took time away from that to go hit the gym to stay on schedule. And it mattered. It makes a difference. And I have spent a good deal of time working on, the original band music and working on the gear. I have a Line 6 Helix Stadium XL that I bought late last year to take to LA when we did those shows out there. And it sounded great in rehearsal. I was very happy with it. I got on stage and I really didn't like it. It didn't sound good. It didn't feel good. And so I have been crafting new presets. And this time I'm going in with several options. If it doesn't sound good or if it needs adjustments, then I can adjust it on the fly. Because the two things that worked against me in LA were that, number one, I only had one bank of presets. So it was live and die by these. Number two, I didn't know the gizmo well enough to make adjustments on the fly. And so I had to live with what I had. I am working on crafting new presets. I'd like to have at least 4 options. And number 2, by spending time with it, I have a much better understanding of how to use it and how to program it and how to make changes to it so that if it's just off by a little, I can fix it up on the fly. So by taking the schedule off of everything and saying, these are the things I need to get done this week and focusing on that, I have been much more comfortable and much happier just checking the boxes that I've set for myself instead of I have this 8-hour content and music practice schedule and then anything else I got to do on top of that is on top of that. The next thing that I've been working on, I'm not just a musician anymore. I am not just building a music career, but I'm kind of building a media company around being a musician. You know, what it boils down to is you could be the greatest musician in the world and you could have the greatest songs in the world. If nobody ever hears them, then it doesn't make a difference. And so on this journey, I have learned that having an internet presence and having an internet following is essential to that level of exposure because there's so much music out there that you're literally throwing a cup of water into the ocean and hoping somebody likes the way it tastes. They're never going to find you. You've got to have a social media presence and you've got to have real world appearances. I've had to take a deep dive into editing and making thumbnails and hooks and captions and release strategies and algorithms, pacing and storytelling and consistency and audience retention. I am just beginning to scratch the surface on these things, but they are essential for getting your name out there, essential for getting your music out there. If I take a few hours and watch YouTube videos about how to do things, I have to learn to let that count because that is valuable education. I don't schedule time for that. And if I do that, I feel like I'm avoiding responsibility, but I have had to make myself recognize that that is essential knowledge and an essential part of what I'm doing. And at some point, I made the discovery that I don't need anyone's permission to do this. And that includes myself. You know, I kind of have a cruel taskmaster inside me that is always driving me towards the goal and is always demanding production. Taking that voice out of the equation and giving myself permission to explore and to have fun and to enjoy and to take a day off has helped immensely with my state of mind and my enjoyment of this process. So I'm making the episodes, I'm making the clips, I'm making the thumbnails, I'm learning vocals, I'm learning production, I'm experimenting, I'm posting things that are far from perfect because the ultimate decision is that I don't need anyone's permission to do these things, but it is also deciding that this is who I am and not just what I do. And so when I wake up in the morning, I am the musician, I am the content creator, and I don't necessarily have to prove it to anyone, including myself. I just make it and I put it out there and I get better at it in whatever time frame I get better at it. And I don't obsess and I don't re-edit and revisit. I just do it. And so 20 episodes in of trying to adhere to that process, I've become more authentic, more relaxed, more aware of this being a lifestyle rather than just a task. I've learned that consistency is far more important than intensity. I've learned that momentum matters, joy matters, flexibility matters so much. Perfectionism absolutely kills output. Quantity creates clarity. That's a big one. 20 episodes in. And I still wouldn't say I totally know what I'm doing, but I would say that I'm much more comfortable doing it. And I feel like my mindset and my understanding of who I am and what I'm doing is becoming clearer. I used to say all the time that the answers are in the journey. And you don't know how to solve the problems that come up until you get to them. And sometimes taking action ultimately reveals the direction. You don't know how to get there until you hit the road. I find that motivation follows movement. I find that taking action breeds innovation. You have to try and you have to fail and you have to figure out how to get around it, and that's how you move forward. And in that process, you find your way and you find yourself. And that's really what this is about. The tagline of my story is rebuilding a music career in real time, but it has actually been a lot about rebuilding myself and mindset and my mentality and kind of even my emotions. You have to push past the things that people did to you and the things that went wrong, and try again. You have to face those fears. You have to face those ghosts, and you have to find a way through. I don't know where that mean little voice in my head comes from, but I'm beating it, and that is very important. So I'm learning my craft. I'm learning my secondary skill set as a social media person, and I'm learning myself. So I've learned a lot over the years about being in a band and running a band. I learned a lot throughout the making of this podcast and this journey that I'm on now about developing as a musician, developing as a content creator, developing as someone who is building a brand and building a project. And I've learned a lot about managing my own emotional state and my own mentality. We all have one. We all have normal and abnormal reactions and emotional states, and understanding and overcoming those is essential. I don't remember what episode it was, but I did an episode about finding my voice, and I really feel like that has been job one, and I feel like it has been a longer process than I expected, because it's not just about finding my singing voice, and it's not just about finding my speaking voice, but it's about finding my expression in the world on every level. So 20 episodes in, and I've learned an awful lot, and I still don't know how this goes, or where it goes, or how it ends up, or if I make it or I don't. But I will say, I trust myself more now than I did when I started. I used to think the goal was to become a singer, release music, and build a band. But I think the goal overall is to escape everything that holds me back, whether it's myself, whether it's something that somebody else did to me, whether it's fear of success or fear of failure, or whether it's fear of trying to push past all of that and build something in myself that does what needs to be done, whether it's this or anything else, the confidence and the surety that I can handle it without beating myself up about it, without mentally abusing myself, without driving myself into the dust. The goal is to build something sustainable in my life and something sustainable as a music career that I never have to quit. Making it to episode 20 kind of feels like proof that maybe I won't. I sit here today at 95 YouTube subscribers. That doesn't sound like a lot, but I had none when I started, and it's only been 3 months. And that's kind of exciting to me. It tells me that somebody somewhere is getting this. And as much as I want 10 billion followers, I would really rather have a group that is invested in my story and cares how this turns out and is interested in what I'm doing, no matter what the size is. So I'm grateful for 95 followers. At 1,000 followers, YouTube will monetize you. At 100,000 followers, you get their super cool silver play button award. I'm not going to lie, I kind of want one of those. It's a long way to go, but at 20 episodes, I'm in the top 10% of podcasts just for existing. So thank you for being part of this journey. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do. I'm about 999,905 subscribers short. That was some on-camera math. Enjoy. Anyway, hit that subscribe button. Like it. Tell your friends that some guy is putting all his business out there while he's trying to figure it all out. And keep coming around, because I'm going to keep doing it. This is the Chronicles of Shred.